Good afternoon, everybody. Today is Tuesday, March 26th, and I'm calling to order the Board of Directors meeting at 5:15 p.m. Do you have anybody interested in reading the mission and vision and the land of knowledge?
Mission vision.
Okay.
We have innovative, sustainable model of academic excellence for all students that creates well-rounded, lifelong learners and global citizens. And our mission is to provide accelerated and inclusive curricula and instruction in all subjects with an emphasis in math and science.
Any acknowledgement?
We'd like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the land of the OGT Shakwe, people of the 7,000 Islanders, and the Wapakute band. It is within MSA's responsibility as an academic institution to disseminate knowledge about indigenous peoples and their history with this land. MSA works to build relationships with Native American students and families through academic pursuits and historical.
Thank you. Roll call of members: Wendell Sutton here, Isaac Leonardi, Sarah Harms, Rena Lozano,
Here.
Jules Kinko, absent. Brian Lindmeyer, here. Heather Patel, absent. Dan Ellington, here. Mary Ann.
Here.
Is there an approval of the agenda?
According to my, oh, sorry.
Yep. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Need a amendment?
So according to the MSA training, it says that the closed meeting should be 13D.05 subdivision 3C.
Please see that, please see.
It didn't say 3C.
Does Emma have an updated copy of this? Because I feel like,
I don't know, but I can follow up with her. I didn't check the code.
so we'll put the direction of 3C, subsection 3C. All right. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Any conflicts of interest? All right. So the reason why we're starting early today is we were asked by our construction team if we could meet early for a closed session. This meeting will be closed pursuant to Minnesota State Statute 13D.05 subsection 3C to develop or consider offers or counter offers for the purchase or sale of real or personal property. We'll clear the room and we will shut out our YouTube channel. Welcome back. We have a motion to open the meeting again, made by Brian Dinsmeyer and seconded by Dan Ellingson. The meeting was closed pursuant to Minnesota State Statute 13D.05, subsection 3C, to develop or consider offers or counter offers for the purchase or sale of real or personal properties. MTH presented us 3 options with a very rough draft of what a potential site could look like, entailing a building as well as some of the amenities that were requested by the school and stakeholders. We will be hosting a town hall April 4th, 6:30? 6 to 7:30. Where we will share as much information as permitted. So we invite everybody to attend that town hall. Kevin, did you receive any open meeting?
What do you mean?
Open forum?
What do you mean? I've never received them.
Oh, you wrote
Oh, yeah, no, I don't know.
Okay.
I have a request right here, but you just opened the meeting. So he's going to break this up.
It's my fault. I didn't take them outside, so they didn't have a chance.
You will?
Etiquette.
Could we test the volume a little bit? Shawnee says that it's not sounding.
Testing for Shawnee, volume.
Thank you.
It was very quiet at home.
Yeah.
It was very hard to hear, yeah.
Okay, good.
Did you turn it off? What? No, they, no, they I'm just telling them to do it.
And then Caitlin, we will shut this off again.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna close the door. Seems to be. Thanks, Em.
Up next, board recognition. We had scheduled tonight to recognize the board, the Black Student Union and their contributes to the community. We did ask that due to traveling concerns and weather that they participate at our next meeting, but we do want to take this time to acknowledge their efforts on a very successful night. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Oh,
Ivano, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion passes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Leonardi. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Once again, the closed meeting, number 3, should be subdivision 3C.
Thank you for that correction. Any further discussion?
That's good.
So with the amendment of 3C in the closed session, 3 closed session.
Number 3.
Mhm. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain. Motion passes. The board and administrative reports. The student rep is not here tonight. We'll look for their update next month. Board report. Day at the Capitol was a very successful day. Actually quite fun, I will say. I didn't know what to expect when we went, but it was a lot of fun. It was myself, Dr. Hinton, Mary Yap, and
Dr. Raymond.
Dr. Raymond. who participated in this. It was an event hosted by the Minnesota Association of Charter Schools to get charter schools to come to the Capitol and lobby for safe school funding, which is currently on the table. At the time, they had a House of Representative author, and were looking for a Senate author and a Senate co-author. I will say that MSA was a big asset in acquiring those co-authors, not only with, I believe, our representative here in Woodbury, Nicole Mitchell, but I think Judy Seeberger was another one who also represents the 833 school district as a whole. We were assigned to meet with Nicole Mitchell as well as Ethan Cha, who are our direct representatives, but we took the opportunity to meet with the representatives who encompass our whole district as a whole. And so it was really great experience to get to meet them, get to know them, kind of promote our school and our successes. Mary, would you like to add to that?
Yes, I don't know if you saw it this afternoon or not, but it was very exciting to not only get the feedback from Senator Mitchell and Senator Seeberger, but this came out this afternoon, and I saw it right before I left to come here, that tomorrow, on Wednesday, the Senate Education Finance Committee is going to be taking up the school safety aid bill. And so it takes a lot of work to get it to a Senate Finance Committee. And the importance of this is that district public schools get funding, and currently that funding isn't available to charter schools. And so this bill would allow it to be available to us. So that's not saying that it would be a school safety officer or anything like that here, but these funds could end up being for cybersecurity or school security enhancement, suicide prevention, and some mental health things. So I'm encouraging all of us at the table and in the room and those watching, please reach out to your senators and your representatives tonight if possible, and ask them to please contact and please support this. This could be very game-changing, and I think it was interesting too. They are elected to these positions, but that doesn't mean they know everything. Similar to us, we don't know all of the charter school laws when we take our spot. The biggest thing we heard over and over was they had no idea the difference in the funding compared to, yes, charter schools are public schools, but it is such a different funding mechanism and funding rules to charter schools than it is to a district school. And we had looked back, and in 10 years, my property taxes had gone up $1,000 in just school funding aid. That doesn't come here. And when you can make that point to them, it makes a big difference. Because Kate, you said the funding changes.
For our lease aid.
The lease aid
in
hasn't
like
changed.
15 years, I think we've gotten in the neighborhood of $60 in additional lease aid. And we all know the costs have gone up dramatically.
And Dr. Hinton, what would the impact be for MSA if this passes?
If the school safety passes, it's about $25,000 for us. The key though is to start to get the idea that the levy money, the money that is levied on your property taxes, we don't get part of. We get the funding that comes through the other taxes that you pay, but it doesn't, sorry, I'm throwing all my things around. It does not come through that way. So that's something that we're gonna continue to push for, and I have invited all of our people that we saw, I think we saw 4 or 5 representatives and senators to come out. They probably won't be able to come out till after the session ends, but we're really gonna continue to work on that relationship and building, because next year when it's the funding bills are coming up, I really think that we need to get our lease aid tied at least to the formula, but I'd like to get a good little bump before they do that. So we'll see. But it was a great opportunity, and I really appreciated everyone who came on the team. Everybody contributed, and it was a good day.
and it looks like we have some students in the audience today. But what I was gonna say, for those who are here, thank you for coming, but if you don't know, the state operates 1 year as a bonding year, 1 year as a budget year, and we are in a bonding year, so there's not a lot of additional funds that tend to get approved to come out. So the fact that there's something that would even be a little bit coming our way is big.
Thank you. Just as an update, we attached the workshop notes from our February 20th workshop. You'll see that we. March 12th, sorry. Ahead of myself. March 12th, you'll see that we discussed the policies that were approved in the consent agenda. We also had a discussion on transparency and what transparency is to this board and what that means. I'm trying to pull up my notes here in a second. So the three main ideas about transparency that this board has is that transparency is clear, honest, and open within the law, not attached emotionally or decisions based in fact and law, and review records and meetings available to the community. And that is something that this board is working diligently on over the past 8 months and continue to work on. And when there is an item that needs to be addressed, we are working with Teamworks to address that and to learn and to grow and hold each other accountable, as well as self-accountability. So that was a part of our discussion at our workshop. Next is the executive director's review. I'm in the process of finalizing a lot of the documents. For those of you who participated in the last one, I would like to extend the opportunity for you to give some feedback to me so we can kind of fine tune this and make it more effective. We will put a little time in the workshop just to kind of go over those questions and to kind of get familiar with the process. The process won't happen until May because that was the agreement that we made back in October. So just to start thinking about it and start getting the process of what it is we're going to be, how and what we're going to evaluate. On to the executive director's report.
Okay, thank you. I just had a few things that I wanted to touch on tonight. Just for expansion updates, we did have a closed session tonight. We did look at some properties and talk about the various characteristics of different properties. We have an expansion or a facilities meeting on Thursday. It's a special meeting. We will start to develop some things for the town hall, which I'll share back with the board, and we'll finalize for the town hall on April 5th. The plan is to share out everything that we can that is, what did I say?
April 5th.
April 4th is the day. I'm sorry if I said the wrong day. April 4th is the day. It'll be at 6 o'clock in the Great Hall. Very similar format to what we did before. We are hoping to share as much as we can at that point. So stay tuned. We will have stuff for you in the next week and a half or so. I just included it's kind of a complicated enrollment update with that we're working through with the budget. It's the number of kids that were admitted. It's a process. So students come off the wait list, they get invited. When they accept, then they go into the admitted column. You'll see some numbers are a little bit high because we tend to run the numbers up so that if students leave in May or June, or people who took the spot change their mind, we can allow that number to come back down. We are currently at 97 for 8th grade, which is too high. We will lose some students, but we had thought that one was gonna leave, they didn't leave. So it's good news, but don't panic if you see those numbers are a little bit high. I just wanted to share where we were in snapshot. I think it was last Wednesday when I got this snapshot. In terms of budget, we're still working through PSEO for next year. Students are registering. We're expecting an uptick in PSEO because we're having an uptick in 11th and 12th graders. That's where our growth is. So Joelle and I have been working through the numbers. It's a little bit more complicated this year because we have the PSEO by contract. It is beneficial to us, but it's changing a lot of parts of the formulas that go into the budget. So we're gonna continue to work on that. For sure, we'll have a draft to approve in May. The Finance Committee will be able to look at a little bit of a draft. It's not completely settled because we still have some numbers we have to work through. But we're working on that right now. It's looking favorable. Right now, you will see in terms for next year, we have posted positions for a dean to cover behavior support that replaces the position that was an assistant principal in the past. We also need an additional PE and health, it'd be primarily health and business teacher to address the increased enrollment for next year.
The business is coming from the state too, isn't it? Business
There
educator?
is, so the part of the reason why we need health because we don't have enough staff to teach it. We need business education because personal finance is coming in as a requirement. It's also a really good group of electives that we have a lot of students who are really interested in. So we just had a business club pop up and 30 kids are going regularly now. And I'm like, so there's a demand. They're coming before school for that. We're looking to add an instructional coach. That'll be by reallocating some of our staff. That is not necessarily going to be a new person. It's just a realignment of some duties. And so we're working on figuring out how that will work. Until we get further along on the budgetary items, on our wish list is a 0.5 community engagement to help start building additional community engagement with our families and bringing more people in. That would most likely be a teacher who would work half-time doing community engagement, half-time teaching. We're being conservative, we have not totally been set on that yet, but we're working on that. And then special education staffing, we're still determining how many students have needs based on enrollment. It's so dependent on, we don't ask what a student's needs are when they apply to the lottery. And then as we start to enroll them, we're getting paperwork and determining what we need for that. So that'll come. All of the teachers here I've been pushing them to give me what they need for instructional materials and supplies. I want that to be really much more intentional this year, and so that's been coming in. We're working on that and looking at some additional contracts that we have contracted services, figuring out what those are going to cost us for next year. So we should have a complete balanced budget to the board in May for approval. We may have a sneak peek of it before, depending on where we are on some of this process. The April meeting comes quick, so we should have something at least, if not to present, but in the finance notes, we'll talk a little bit more about it. I hate to publish anything before we're really set, because we don't want to have to take anything back that we promised. Are there any questions on where we are with the budget at this
Before
point?
we go to human resources, how are we feeling with the 709 for next year? I mean, do we feel like we have a good plan to handle that many
Yes.
kids?
So part of the, I don't anticipate us really going up in building by more than 30 because of who's coming now. It's our 11th and 12th grade classes that are growing, and they are off campus a lot. PSEO a lot, and we've got a real ambitious group of 10th graders, so I don't think that we're gonna see that number fall for next year at this point, but I don't know. We'll have to see. They're signing up. We're holding them to the May 30th. So we sign off and allow them to register at the college. May 30th is the deadline. We can sign off after that if we want, and the colleges will take them because they are low on students.
Money, yeah.
So we're not signing any agreements after May 30th. We are not legally required to, and we're not going to because that causes us problems for planning. Because if all of a sudden a bunch of students decide in August, well, we've hired the staff now, we've got the schedules, everything is done. So we're gonna hold them at that point. But the PSEO numbers are coming in roughly where they were historically.
Percentage-wise?
Percentage-wise.
Okay.
But it's hard to say, because we don't know how many are gonna go to Century. Everybody thinks they're going to the U. This year, we have the highest number of kids going to the U, and it's 11. Typically, it's 2 or 3, so we have no way to predict how that's gonna come out, so we have to wait and see when they get their acceptances and how that plays out.
Kate, I have a question.
Sure.
On the enrollment, you have any under 12th grade. Why is that not applicable? Because I would think that there would be a potential that if a family moved, we might lose a child.
I don't know why that's
Okay.
like that, I'm not sure.
And then, as far as the progress for 24-25, how are we looking with current staffing and staff retention?
We have one staff that at this point has indicated that they want to take a sabbatical. That'll come to the board next month. It came after the deadline. But right now, we are just looking at one not returning. It's early, but I haven't heard any grumblings. Typically, you kind of have a sense of who might be leaving, but I have not heard anybody saying they want to go at this point. You lose 1 or 2 every year. I mean, that just happens for a variety of reasons.
Right, I just,
Yeah,
a few years ago, it was a lot more, so.
Yeah, so I mean.
And then you're in a big, but
And I don't know
no
if some
retirements
families are
at
gonna
this
move.
point or
Yeah.
anything like that.
Yeah, so it's hard to know for sure, but I'm not anticipating a big turnover. Any other questions on the budget? Okay, human resources transactions, those are attached. It's getting cumbersome to include all of the seasonal, temporary, and really part-time employees, so I'm recommending that we exclude those from the report in the future, just because it makes the report long and there's more opportunities for inaccuracies when we hire a part-time lunch monitor substitute, or, coaches come and go. It just gets a little chaotic in that report, so I am recommending, unless there's an opposition, that we, in the future, just include our more permanent staff, or people that we expect to be here for an extended period of time.
Unless it falls under the accountability of, and the transparency of a conflict of interest, or something like that.
Yeah, so we'll work through conflicts of interest, but if there is something that we think could be a problem, we would bring that to the board. But right now, I mean, we're basically looking at, most of our coaches return every year too, so there's not even a lot of new coaches. But if we did have something like that, we could include that.
If you have questions, reach out.
Thank you. And as always, if you have a question about somebody who was hired, or you were curious, I mean, that's public information. I'm happy to share it with you. I just think it gets kind of complicated in the report.
And I think for a while it's been in the consent, I know some schools just have the transaction report in the consent agenda, because technically the board is supposed to approve all hires.
And we can do that. It's always, for
And
me,
that
it's
would
been
be-
in here, but
Yeah, I would
in the
think
past, I've seen it in the
agenda
consent
makes the most
agenda.
sense.
Yeah, that's fine. We can move that. That makes a lot of sense. And then the last thing, you may have seen, I was in the news a couple times around the lunch program. We did in those, between the Star Tribune and on KSTP, we've had vendors reaching out. They think that they can provide a lunch program for us in our space. I am not sure how that's actually gonna work, but I am not gonna turn them away if they wanna come out and try and figure out how they can do that. So that's something I'm working through. If I have anybody that is credible enough that they think they can do it, we would have, there's a whole bid process, there's a whole process with the state. So that's something that we're looking at. I know that there are a lot of families that would really like to be able to have food at school, and I would love to be able to provide that for them. So just so you know, that is something that is underway. When we get some more concrete information, and of course, the approval of the contract would come to the board.
Has anyone responded to either outlet? It was, I think, okay exposure for our school and the challenges that we are facing. However, I think, and this I think is sometimes in how they portray things in the media, but I wonder if it's worth reaching out and letting them know that we do have a fantastic food pantry program, so that students, if they didn't bring a lunch that day, or if they're food insecure at home, that they can get a meal, that they don't have to go hungry. And maybe putting it out there that we accept donations into that food pantry too. I mean, to me, some of the feedback I have heard, and I don't know if the rest of you have heard it, is that, oh, I didn't know that there was so much food insecurity at your school. And I'm like, but we've addressed that. You know, Teacher Lozano has done a fantastic job in addressing that. And with the food pantry, and I think it's something that's not as well known. And, you know, I'm like, there was part of me that wanted to pen that letter, and I'm going, I don't know if I dare.
So they know, like in both interviews, KSTP hinted at it a little bit, but we just don't know what they're gonna cut. So I talked about it with both of them. I also spent a lot of time talking about lease aid and why we're having facilities problems. Some of that was not as exciting to them as, you know, so we don't have any control over what actually makes
True,
it in
but
the.
that's where the open forum for a letter to the editor can go
Yeah,
back
I mean,
and address it.
I mean, if somebody wants to do that, that's great. I don't know that I should, since I was the one who was in the articles. So, if somebody wants to do that, I think that could be fine. I mean, it's,
Okay.
that's
I
fine.
think a question, Kate,
Yeah.
if these folks, the vendors, would they be willing to come in under the state funding for the lunch
So,
program?
yeah, so, and it's hard to say, because there's a lot of unknowns, which makes it a little bit difficult. The food and the whole process would come in under the state funding. There are other things that we will have to do. There may be some
At our expense.
at our expense that may or may not. You know, it's gonna depend. Like, they will do everything for you, but everything costs. Like, they'll provide people to work here. They'll provide all kinds of equipment. It's gonna matter which equipment makes the most sense for us to have. So there's a
think
lot
one of
of
the-
pieces in that
So
whole
you'll
big
get the
process.
information and bring it back?
Yeah,
once you get
so,
the-
and I'll let you know when we're ready to take it to bid.
I think one of the biggest hurdles though is gonna be a wash area, wash sink. Even for most catering options, you have to have a wash facility.
A sanitation.
Yeah, and so that's probably gonna be our biggest hurdle.
Yeah, and so they seem to think, the one person was out here, they said they're at one school serving out of a closet. I cannot really imagine how that looks, but there's a lot of different, ways. So I don't know enough details, I don't wanna, get nailed down on that. I just wanna give you a heads up that that is something that may come from that, process, so, and I'll keep you posted as I know more. Yeah, we've got one vendor coming out next week to take a look and see what they can do, so.
It's exciting. All right, Finance Committee report.
All right, for the Finance Committee report, I think everything's pretty steady from the last few months. So the ADM has kind of leveled off with a working budget of 601. We still have a very healthy days cash on hand, and the projected debt service coverage is above 1, and the projected ending funding balance is very healthy. The working budget number did go down a bit from the last meeting, down to $27,427 for the projected working budget for the year. The main reason, or one reason for that would be the addition of an enrollment coordinator position for the rest of the year. So that's one addition for that. Then I think other than that, we're kind of looking at the next big thing is the budget work in progress that we'll see some of a preview in the next finance meeting, maybe at the board meeting, and then by the May meeting, we'll see the budget projection for the next year.
And just so we make sure that we're clear, because the agenda has it as the March Finance Committee meeting minutes, and this is all February, and I'm sorry that I did not bring this. I had a crazy weekend, so,
We can motion to approve with that amendment.
I will.
I'm just reconfirming that those are the actual March minutes.
So I don't know if I don't know which one is the right way,
Okay.
I guess.
3/19, March 19.
Yeah.
So those are just the minutes. The
It's
title
just
of that
a-
one is just for the minutes.
So we just have to
But the
correct.
reports are accurate in February.
So we had the meeting in March to review the February financials.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but on the agenda for tonight, it says the March Finance Committee.
Meeting minutes, because that's when they met.
We'll double check and make sure everything is correct
Consistent.
before we post it.
Okay, I wasn't sure which one was right, because this says March Finance Committee meeting minutes, and this says February Finance Committee meeting minutes, so.
Oh, I see. The
So,
link, the
yeah.
link says February.
So
but
really
then-
probably
Okay.
this should change, this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so we should have caught that before,
Oh,
but.
which one is right? I don't
Actual
know.
minutes, okay.
Thanks for catching that.
Yes. Mhm.
And if I'm trying to go back and look at them, I don't know where I'm supposed to find them.
We'll get that fixed.
All right, and then other than that, just for teachers, for the end of the year spending, and the end of April is when to get in all of the end of the year spending requests.
Would you like to motion to approve?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the February financial report.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Further discussion? Other than the correction on the actual minutes, change that.
Just regarding discussion, and this is so that hopefully we don't. So in looking back at the previous year's finance committee meeting, there was discussion in May about money being carried forward that didn't happen. And when we talk about the activities carryover are subject to admin approval, is it only activities? And who makes sure this happens? Because in the May Finance Committee meeting from last year, which Dustin was at and the admin team was at, and everybody was there, the discussion was that the give to the max monies would be carried forward, and then they weren't. So if we're talking about that happening, who ensures that it happens?
So there's a few funds that we're expecting to be coming in, and a few things that we're gonna need to be carrying forward, so we will make sure that those those are taken care of. The activities, Shawnee and Dustin and I have been meeting about how to do the carry forward, which isn't really a carry forward, but putting more of a line item in the budget so that because part of the problem with carry forward, if you carry it forward for a specific reason, then you have to match the money with the reason. And so it gets really complicated when we're dealing with, all of our student council money or whatever to try and track all that. So we're working on a method to make sure that money it's different money, but it's preserved. So it's a line item in the budget. So we're working on that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Any questions on governance or updates?
Maybe just first off, I think the process flow has really gotten to a spot where it feels like it's really working. So I think that's kudos to the team working on this. But the second one was how far along? We have 700s, is that right? Or what's left, I guess is the question.
This is the end of the first reads. There's a couple to clean up, but we've already done 7, 8,
Okay,
and 900,
okay.
so 600 was the last.
Okay,
So we are pretty much through. There's a couple of new ones that we gotta clean up next time, and there's maybe 4 policies left.
and then are we gonna do like a calendar? Like we had a calendar a year or
Yep,
two
so
back?
at our next workshop, we're gonna talk about a 3-year plan.
Okay,
And Dr. Hinton and I believe Hedl and Jules have been working together on a schedule for policies moving forward within that 3-year plan.
good. Should be more smooth now that we've kind of adopted this. It'll just be changes as needed, right?
Yeah.
As
And
opposed
really-
to wholesale change.
We've done 3 years worth of work.
In about a year and a
Yeah,
half.
here, and then a full bylaw rewrite, so it's been an incredible amount, so,
Yeah.
I mean, Heddle's really pulled us along on getting that done, so I appreciate that.
I really appreciate the change in the notes from February to March. I'm curious as to how we're ensuring we're hearing others' voices. When we're reviewing these. Just because there was a committee that was approved with all sorts of voices and all sorts of backgrounds and representation. But for example, in March, it was all board members that were at it. And where are we getting those other non-board member voices? Where are we getting the parent voices? Where are we getting the staff voices? I mean, I'll be honest, I love the way I can look at the finance and I know who's on the committee, I know who's been there. To me, that says transparency. I like this, I like March much better, but I guess where have we lost that full committee that was so robust? And how do we get them back? Because I think those voices need to be heard. And if not, are there other voices that need to come on that committee?
I think definitely the parents, and we do miss them too. I mean, I know my fellow board committee members feel the same, but when our other parents aren't there, we kind of wish they were because they contribute so much. But it gets to be this time when it just becomes, it's just so much, the meeting commitments and the volume of reading is just so much that I think that patience is important. Having the level of an understanding, especially with parents, I guess what I'm trying to say is I completely feel the same way, but I feel like it's so important because they are committed. When they can come, they do come, and they do contribute, and they are sincere in their work for our students. So it's important to save space for that. Do you know what I mean? We talk about saving space for those voices. So we keep the door open, and they've been great. I mean, I know we see the absence on the minutes, but maybe somebody else has another perspective. But
And for voicing, it's always important to email. If you have a concern or know of something that's on the agenda that you'd like to talk about, submit an email, show up in person, request that time, request that space. That's always important, that's valid. To Dan's point, I think with where we're at in the schedule, I think with our organizational meeting coming up in July, we'll have a great opportunity to really solidify not just a monthly, it'll probably be more bi-monthly at that point in our schedule, so that way we can dedicate more time and spread it out. So that way it's less commitment. if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and it'll go down to maybe 5 or 6 policies every
Yeah.
2 months. So, I mean, for the board members and the committee commitment, it will be much, what we've asked them to do is so much. I mean, we're giving them, 75, 100 pages. Well, you guys know, you're reading all this too. And then it's been a lot for them to do. So that will be,
So I guess my question is more along the line, and going to your point, Wendell, as we look to July and that organizational meeting. This is the first time we have had board-appointed committees where they needed to apply or express interest and then be appointed, and the board has appointed. Is this process working?
To your point, we did talk about this, and it is up for review.
Okay,
We talked about that, so yeah.
So,
It is up for
I mean,
review, and
that's
we'll
just-
take it into consideration at that time.
something I'm looking at is how can we reach out to those voices and what could we have done better?
Yeah, we'll take that time when we reflect on it to
Okay.
do that. All right, some action items. We do have the science department here to present, so I'd like to invite Melissa up to present on a trip for students to Belize.
I have some paper to help give you a visual image, gotta have a visual aid. So thank you for having me, I appreciate your time, yeah. And I just wanted to kind of talk about something that we are planning in the science department, or hoping to plan. I do apologize for not getting it to you sooner, turns out you need board approval to do this, I didn't know that, good information to know, always learning. Here I have just kind of like 2 pieces. So the first one is the information session, which is tomorrow night. Obviously would be canceled should this not be approved. And then it just kind of talks through what we're going to talk about. There's no commitment to anyone who attends that meeting. It's just simply information about a trip. The trip overall would be to Belize. Sounds really nice right now, considering the weather. And this is a specifically STEM-focused trip. So this would be a science trip, especially for students that have completed their year of biology. So it would focus on mostly ecology and looking at some of the science in Belize. And there's some other like fun aspects to it, and there's some other informational things. And they can practice their Spanish if they want to. So it kind of shows you the map there. So they fly into Belize City. They go to the southern coast, Punta Gorda, and the Cayo region. There are dates there for next June. So starting to plan right now. That gives families and parents some time to start thinking about it. If they want to finance it, they can break it into smaller payments. The sooner we do it, the more time they'll have to pay. So it ends up working out better for families. The trip would be 8 days. With EF Tours, we are working with them currently for the Spain trip this year. So they have kind of a range of dates, so their range is there. And then I have the goal, so to promote student growth via their science skills and knowledge, life science in particular, their global citizenship and self-confidence. And there's some specific science topics there if you're interested in reading those. I just kind of went through their itinerary and made sure I included everything. Additional topics, they'd be looking at Mayan archaeology, production of tortillas and chocolate, Mayan culture, and it's an opportunity, like I said, for students to practice their Spanish. The cost there for students would be $4,500 approximately, and then the price is slightly higher for adults that would like to attend. We would have a student to teacher ratio of 1 to 6, just like the Spain trip is this year. And for any teacher chaperones, that cost would be free. And that's free for 1 for every 6 students that enroll. The reason we kind of wanted to get this done as soon as possible is that EF Tours offered a $200 tuition credit should we do the info meeting before April 1st. So that's kind of where the rush came with that. And we just want to make sure kids have that opportunity because $200 off is $200 off. So we want to make sure that they have that opportunity. EF Tours itself does offer a scholarship program for kids to enroll in. They have to simply just make a video of why they want to go on that particular trip. So why they would want to go to Belize, how they think it would improve their global citizenship, and then they could enroll in that scholarship. I also plan on fundraising some money, just like Effie is doing currently with the Spain program, to try and offset some of the costs for students and their families should they want to go. The nice thing with this program is that it includes literally everything. So that cost has breakfast, lunch, and dinner for every single day. It's their flight. It's every single opportunity that they're doing. There's no extra cost. So they don't have to enroll in anything additionally. They get to do everything that's there included in the price. So there's nothing else. Yeah.
So a question on the Spanish one, so my daughter is going to this
Yes.
one, but then I think the company hit us up for additional things.
Right, there was additional excursions.
Yep.
So that is not part of this program. Students do everything
All
together.
together, okay, gotcha,
Yes.
so a little different thing.
A little bit different there, which is kind of nice for this program because it's science focused and we want to make sure kids aren't missing any opportunities for the learning there. It's pretty similar in other aspects, so they provide a 24-hour emergency service team. This also includes travel insurance, so everything is insured. They also have an option for a final project if they want any college credit. They can get up to 3 college credits, which is kind of nice. And all their, like I said, all their entrance fees would be paid for.
Does that include the tour director fee, tips and so forth?
Does
Because
not
that's
include
something that
tips,
was
yes,
not.
so they recommend like $12 per day for kids or something like that. That's optional, kids can choose to do it if they want to. I think Effie's like collecting all of them. That's something we can certainly do, and if that doesn't work out, then we can possibly do something else. But yeah, tipping would not. The only things that they would have to pay for are if they want to check a bag, if they want to tip, they can do that. And then, trying to think, I just had this meeting today. And then if they wanted like any extra snacks or like things that they would want to purchase. So a little bit different than the Spain trip in that more is included. Yes.
So you mentioned the scholarship. Is that to pay for the entire trip, or is that for like $1,000?
It's $1,000.
Just $1,000.
Yes.
Okay. And then do you have a student minimum? Because usually these costs are at a student minimum.
So not a student minimum, but I have a student maximum.
Okay.
So I would need at least 6 students enrolled to like obviously have 1 chaperone. So I guess the minimum would be 6. But in Belize in particular, they give us 1 tour bus, so the maximum number of students we can have is 33. So I would take students on a first come, first served basis.
So 33 up to 38, because 38 passengers.
Correct.
Yeah, so that includes
Though
the
that
chaperones.
includes the chaperones,
Okay.
yeah, they need space too.
What are your ideas with fundraising?
So I currently am working with SweNext, and they had a really successful fundraiser through Chipotle, so I was gonna use that as one of my first fundraisers. And then going from that, however much money we make, maybe try them again or other companies if that doesn't work out as well as I thought it would.
I'll talk to you. I've got an excellent one if your kids are willing.
Hmm?
I have an excellent fundraiser opportunity
awesome. Yeah.
with the South Washington County Fair.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I'm up for anything. As much as I can do to reduce the cost, I'm willing to do. They also allow for students to kind of create like a EF-based GoFundMe page, so they can put that out if they wanted to, like for their birthday or anything like that. If relatives or anyone they know wanted to help fund their trip, that's also an option.
Will you be, because I know that adults can also pay for the trip, will you be like prioritizing students before
Yeah, I
any?
think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd rather students have that since it's a STEM-based education opportunity. Yeah. What else?
Further questions?
My biggest concern is always just safety on that stuff, and I know EF does a pretty decent job,
Yeah.
so. And then when we intermix adults, obviously, being in education, you understand, you don't always know what you're getting.
Sure.
So just that's where I just kind of step back a little bit, take a deep breath, but I also think it's an awesome opportunity, and thank you for bringing it to the forefront.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Probably the most exciting and rewarding thing I ever did as a science teacher now and as someone who's really interested in science was I spent a month in Costa Rica and did a bunch of research there, and that was probably like a highlight of my education. So I would love to provide that for students too.
With my experience with EF, they hire a nighttime security guard for the hotel. On your topic of safety, right?
Right, and they have that 24-hour emergency service as well. So there's pretty much someone always with you.
Thank you for resurrecting this trip. I
Yeah,
know
it is
that
one we've
the
previously
Belize
done.
trip is one that our biology
Mhm.
department has done before. And I know that for the kids who went on it, it was phenomenal. And they really learned a lot and had a great time. So thank you for
Yeah.
resurrecting it.
Of course. Yeah.
Can you elaborate, and it's only because this word is there, tobacco kai activity?
Oh, so it's the name of our area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to
So,
clarify.
yeah. So they would just be looking at, I think that was.
Back page.
Oh, I see.
Reforestation project?
Yeah, it's part of reforestation and then also part of the reef work that they're gonna be doing. So just an area.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm. Are we ready to vote on this? All right, is there a motion to approve the biology trip to Belize?
Motion to.
Okay. Your computer fell asleep.
Take that out.
Motion by Dan Ellingson, is there a second? Any further discussion? All right,
Sorry, just real quick, did we talk about the age? Is there an age limit, grade limit?
Just any student who has completed their biology requirement.
Okay, so
Yes.
it could be any grade as long
High
as.
school.
Gotcha.
So an
Yeah,
outgoing
yeah.
senior a year from now could go.
There will be an age limit. Students that have previously graduated would not be able to. So like our current 11th graders would be the oldest kids.
That's what I was asking, is
sure.
a year from now, they
Oh,
will have
sure.
graduated at the beginning of,
Yes,
June.
I don't wanna keep that opportunity from them,
Okay.
considering it's happening right now.
And technically, they're still ours until June 30th, even though we give them a diploma.
So this would be before that,
Yeah.
no matter what.
So, sorry, I'm not clear, so the current juniors would
Be
be
the
able to do it?
oldest.
Yeah,
Would be
so-
the oldest, yes.
So this year's
Yeah.
seniors would not.
Would not be able to do it,
Right.
understand.
that was my,
Thanks.
Any further discuss, oh, we gotta vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? All right. Policy 613, graduation policy. Dr. Hinton.
So, we do not currently have a graduation policy, we have graduation procedures, we just have never had a policy. This policy is the MSBA policy. You might see some things in there that are kind of odd, like by the 2012-2013 school year, that is what the MSBA policy has in it. There is no changes to our current graduation requirements with this policy. You'll see under graduation requirements, Part B, little I, Math and Science Academy still requires students to earn 1 credit of calculus or equivalent as approved by the Board of Directors. That is currently where we are. I know the state requires Algebra 2, we do it a little bit differently, but that is in there. And then under the minimum of 7 elective credits, that's where we added, which shall include world language each year of high school, or completion of the 5-year world language progression. We just use the world language because as we expand, if somehow, we suddenly are able to offer Chinese or something else. Right now, it is Spanish, because that is our only choice. But those are the only things that we have really added to the policy. I just wanted to give a chance, because I think people might feel like we were just sliding that one in since we've never had it. Does anybody have any questions or anything they want to talk about that? And we will meet as a governance committee April 8th, so if you have something that comes up before then or something you think we missed, let us know and we can.
So are we not voting on it now?
You already,
gonna
already
vote
approved it
as
for
a
first
first
read.
read.
Right.
So it's first read, it's just a chance, we just pulled it off the consent agenda.
Okay, it was
Yes,
just
it's-
under action items, so that's why I was.
Yeah.
No, it's just because in case somebody wanted to have a discussion, I didn't want anybody to think that we were just trying to pull a
this
fast one.
Are our curriculum requirements stated elsewhere by the board?
Yeah, well, we have a whole, it meets
I know
the
in our
state
charter-
requirements, yeah.
Our charter, we have it, right?
Yeah, and our, I don't wanna dive into the charter, cause that's goofy too, there's a lot of stuff in our charter that we don't do.
Okay.
But,
I'm just-
including daily staff meetings.
Yeah, I'm just asking so that we don't have any contradiction, but.
No, and it's, I mean, we're keeping the calculus in there.
Yep.
I mean, if the board wants to address calculus at another time, we're not bringing that forward right now. That's something that could always happen, that could have
Sure.
always happened before, so. I expect there's been some changes in the state law, that this one will have red lines soon, to reflect some of the changes.
I think also to mention 6D, the additional earth science.
Oh, yeah, we did go ahead and just kind of go off script and just change that because we know that that's required for next year. That hasn't been redlined yet, so that's one of the things that I expect would happen. We just went ahead and made that change just so that we don't have to bring this back forward again in September.
And you said the personal finance as well? Or what was it?
Personal finance
Will be required by the state?
will be required by the state. I think they have,
Is it 2025 or 2026? It's one of those two.
yeah, and ethnic studies is in there too, and we haven't quite figured out exactly how we're gonna address that. And as the state laws change, I mean, we're very well aware
H1.
of them.
Which one?
H1 talks about business education program. Would that encompass the
Yeah, and-
personal
and-
finance?
We will still maintain like a document that shows what needs to be taken. We just we're not gonna put that in the policy.
That would be easier for parents, right?
Right, and we need
Start
that.
writing policy.
Just
Yeah.
like we talked about and decided to go to 25 credits for the current 8th graders to graduate, the number of credits isn't in there particularly. And so, we talked a little bit about this with Christine as to how to address that, so we're not constantly reapproving this policy. And she said a lot of boards just maintain this is what's required document, which is somewhat separate from this, it's not in
It's
the
more
policy.
procedural
It's procedural, like
Yeah.
what we,
than policy. Any other questions? If you do think of some down the road, feel free to email Dr. Hinton or Hedl or Jules, and we will get it on the governance agenda before our second read. Future board items, we have a workshop a week from tonight. It's gonna come quick. I'll have the agenda out to you later this week. Where Christine has a lineup for us on our 3-year plan, and then we'll have a quick session at the end to further our discussion on expansion and on the executive director review, if there are some things that we wanna discuss at that time. Isaac mentioned the budget is coming down the pipeline here, so we'll be ready for that. We're already talking end of the year, so plan for graduation.
You know, years go faster and faster.
I know,
Every year,
right?
I'm glad I'm not getting older.
Is there anything on your mind that we need to add to future? If not, just send me an email when you do. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I will motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I will.
All in favor? Aye. Have a good night, safe drive home. Take your time coming up to those stop signs and stoplights. A little slick out there.